Welcome back to some more interesting questions. This one comes from Fact Nomental. Um, you know, there's crazy things going on in space, obviously. Uh, that's what this video is about. It's about crazy things going on in space. So, um, I've seen crazy things. I've seen something that I really can't explain. I seen a green glowing orb coming from basically uh, southeast, my position, and um, I watched it come literally over the airport below me, and I it was green glowing orb. It split into two objects, so it was one object, green glowing orb. It split into two. It was started spinning around each other, and then it started ascending upward into the sky, and it either just came to a point where I couldn't visibly see it anymore or it just faded out. It was the craziest, one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And this is, I don't know, maybe about 8 years ago. Um, I witnessed this on my porch uh, of where I live, or my patio, you'd say. And it was something I can't explain. But I witnessed this, and a lot of people go, "Oh, why don't you grab your cell phone? Why don't you record?" I said I was just so in awe of what I was seeing. I literally didn't even think about grabbing my phone to capture this. It's hard to explain because a lot of people just say, "Oh, well, if you've seen this, why don't you grab your phone? Why don't you record?" I said because I just didn't want to miss what I was seeing. It kind of happened to me, like it happened so fast. Um, but it was bizarre, super bizarre. So, but this video pertains to, I guess, crazy things that are seen in space that are unexplained, and you know, um, give me your opinion. If you've seen something that you can't explain, leave a comment below. Like and subscribe to the channel, because this is the interesting questions. This is what this channel is about. It's about interesting questions. So this is a very interesting question about things that cannot be explained that were recorded in space. So without further ado, um, let's go ahead and we'll get to the video. And like I said, this is about this video comes from uh, fact fact no mental. That's the channel where I'm getting the content from, and this is my commentary. Like I said, I've never seen this video before. Maybe you have, but please like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. And here we go.
At the end of one's tether, the USA and Italy celebrated the 75th space mission in 1996 by sending an experimental tether into orbit. The aim was to investigate new sources of power, namely a way to cleanly harness solar wind to power spacecraft. As the shuttle crew began deploying the satellite, the umbilical tether snapped, sending the oval-shaped equipment drifting off in the direction of deep space. The mission video shows unexplained bright objects flying around the detached tether like wasps buzzing around a nest. NASA conveniently omitted the bright lights from the mission report, and to date has refused to acknowledge or explain the bizarre phenomenon. Did the objects approach to investigate the bizarre floating piece of space junk? Or were they responsible for the tether snapping in the first place? 9. Fancy a cup of tea? Apollo 16 took off on April 16th, 1972. After just 11 days in space, the 3 astronauts on board saw something so unbelievable it demands attention. they caught a glimpse of a strange circular-shaped craft with a great dome-like structure. They managed to capture a short video lasting only a few seconds, which clearly showed the anomalous UFO. In a typical deny everything fashion,
There's a lot of, you could look up a lot of videos on the moon, and there's so many weird objects. I think there's even like photographs of like um craft like sitting in craters. And I think there was actually they said we got a bogey when Neil Armstrong was actually going to set foot on the moon. They're like, oh, we got a bogey right here. And that was like some kind of secret channel or whatever, but supposedly that's what he said. Like, oh, they're like they're watching us. Like we got a bogey here.
the tape mysteriously vanished for over 30 years. Even more unbelievable is the fact that no copies were made. Well, that's what they thought. A worker stumbled across the tape at Johnson Space Center. Thanks to some digital wizardry, a high-res scan of the tape allowed for a more detailed look at the object. Concentric white and gold circles cover the dome and a long, thin structure extending from the side. For all intents and purposes, that's a flying saucer.
You know what? In comparison, if that's the actual moon, and that is an actual object, that object must be huge. Like that must be, that must be a huge object. I mean, serious. Like, just go back to that image. If that is actually the moon, that object is ginormous. That is a huge object. If that's a real photo of the moon and an object next to the moon, like, think about how big the moon is. That is huge. That's a huge object. That has to be huge.
Over the dome and a long, thin structure extending from the side. For all intents and purposes, that's a flying saucer. 8. I see the light. The Mars rover Curiosity is the gift that keeps giving. It's still operational and sending data back to this day, a full 6 years longer than expected. On the 3rd of April, 2014, our little friend picked up a Martian beacon of light. In the distance, behind the cover of a dune, a bright light beam can be seen extending up into the sky past the horizon. The light was picked up by the right camera, though strangely not by the left. Easily explained, as there is a delay between the two cameras, and the light turned off before the left side camera activated. NASA suggested it was a glare shining off a glistening rock. Doubtful, as the image was taken during a period of low light. They then said a cosmic ray hit the camera sensor, but if this was true, there would be image anomalies every day. The kicker is that the same beam of light was picked up again in an earlier photo. Try explaining that. 7. Martian Sasquatch. Could Mars be home to alien hominids? The answer? Well, maybe. The Mars rover picked up a confronting image that is yet to be explained by NASA, or as we like to refer to them, never a straight answer. Whether a life form or a sculpted statue, there is no denying that this is not just a natural rock formation and trick of the light. A plausible explanation could be it's just a case of pareidolia. This bizarre...
It could be pareidolia, but that looks very odd. Like, that literally looks like, well, because you can see like a head shape and, like a neck, and a body with like an arm. There's like an arm stretched out from that. Like, I think, it could be pareidolia. That's a possibility given, but that literally looks like, a human figure. Like, at the end of the day, that looks like a human figure.
Our phenomenon is behind people claiming an Elvis-shaped kidney bean or finding the face of Jesus Christ on a burnt piece of toast. Are we looking for alien life so hard that we imagine it everywhere? Or is this just a convenient cover story, and the truth of whether alien life exists is sitting right under our noses?
Like I said, let's go back a little bit. Let's go forward a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that looks like an arm stretched out. That looks like a figure or a statue or something. It's hard to say, like, to discredit that as just pareidolia. That looks very odd.
Under our noses. 6. Not one of ours. An amateur astronomer witnessed a bizarre object orbiting the Earth back in 2012. It was also observed by a larger telescope in Italy, who estimated it to be around 60 feet long, oval in shape, and spinning around on its axis at around 1 revolution per minute. They dubbed it J002E3. The rotations caused the object to alternate its luminosity, but even so, NASA's UFO program failed to detect it when scanning near-Earth space for anomalies. They commented that it did not match any space debris from recently launched spacecraft, and that it must have entered Earth's orbit fairly recently. It had a bizarre looping orbit which was inherently unstable, causing the object to leave Earth's orbit, where it settled again in a solar orbit. Experts say it'll come back to visit in around 30 years based on projections, while enthusiasts claim it was an alien craft. 5. We got the nukes. Back in 2009, NASA launched the LaCrosse mission to the moon, but in reality, many people described it rather like a kamikaze mission, because once it was in orbit, the 2.2...
I want to say something about that last video. If there was intelligent, or there is intelligent extraterrestrial life in our galaxy alone, why wouldn't they send probes? If they knew that we existed, why wouldn't they send probes? So it's a very good possibility that if there was something circulating around in our solar system, hypothetically, aliens would want to know that they would want to know the geologics, as I could say, or the mass of our solar system. They may be very curious about it. So that's possible that object could be surveying and finding things out for an intelligent species.
2-ton payload rocket booster was fired at the moon because... reasons. The rocket went inside the Cabeus crater near the southern pole of the moon, impacting and creating a huge plume of dust and debris. The mission aim was to have a lunar reconnaissance orbiter take samples during a fly-through to determine if moon craters contain frozen water. Images sent back from the mission show a rectangular structure in the shadow of the crater, leading some to suggest that NASA dropped a nuclear weapon on a moon base with a search for water.
And there's videos, you can watch them. There's all kinds of structures on the moon. Like, they're all over the moon. Like towers and weird stuff. So there's a lot of weird stuff on the moon.
Water, just a huge cover story. Alien headquarters or foreign government research facility. 4. Thunderstruck. While a probe was orbiting the moon in 1972, NASA caught a glimpse of bizarre flash of lightning within the dark shadow of the Stein crater. It's unsure if the discharge of electricity is hitting the moon's surface or rising up from deep beneath it. This gave rise to the conspiracy theory that there's an underground moon base buried in the crater. Not as far-fetched as you think, as the US government has drawn up secret plans for a moon base. They even had detailed schematics. It was called Project Horizon, with the aim to be finished in 1966 at the cost of $6 billion to the taxpayer. But it was shut down by President Eisenhower. Another explanation is that it could be a lightning sprite. These are seen on Earth when lightning spreads out in the cloud, dissipating before it touches down to the ground. This would be a logical explanation, if only the moon had an atmosphere. 3. Man in the Moon. First, there was Google Earth, which prompted keyboard detectives around the world to reveal some oddities that deserve their own top 10 list. Not content with ruffling so many jimmies, Google doubled down when they teamed up with NASA in 2009 to create the rather unimaginably named Google Moon.
There's also a lot of weird things like shadows and stuff about conspiracy theories about the moon landing and, shadows and stuff like that too. Not just that, is if you look at all the moon pictures, that the astronauts that went to the moon, that you cannot see any stars in the sky. But what the argument is that the sun, the surface of the moon projects light, which it does. You can actually see that in the sky. The moon is illuminant. And what they're saying is that illuminance, that light that is coming out will block out all the stars, just like being in the city. You have so many lights in the city. That is true. It will block out a lot of what you can see in the sky.
It took no time at all for some internet super sleuth to scour the surface of the moon and find something extremely unusual. There appears to be a shadowy figure taking a leisurely stroll up there on the lunar surface. We're not saying it's a giant. NASA have refused to comment on the bizarre silhouette and even left it on Google Moon. Denial of the truth or epic troll? 2. Take me to your leader. The Martian surface is a vast desert of rock and red dust, or so we thought. The Mars Opportunity rover sent back an extraordinary image on the 17th of March 2017 of what appears to be a huge chunk of shiny, reflective metal poking out of the ground. It's unlike anything seen in any of the other images we've received from the mission. Dark shadowing around the anomaly makes it different to see whether it's coming up from the ground, resting on the ground, or hovering in the air. It really does look exactly how you imagine an alien spacecraft to look, a round flat disc, with a raised dome on top acting like a cockpit. The resemblance is uncanny. Could this be another case of pareidolia, where we see what we want to see, or finally some evidence of the existence of intelligent life other than mankind? 1. Otherworldly standing stone. Here on planet...
Yeah, I mean, imagine an alien wreck or a probe coming from another intelligent species in our galaxy. Maybe they're sending probes here. Maybe their probes failed and they crash. We have probes on Venus, crashed. Russia had several failed missions on Mars. So there are several probes on the surface of Mars. You will find them there. Like, if you were to go there personally, you will find them there. They're crashed. They're on the surface. So when it's saying that there is an object on Mars, how do we know that that was not China? If it's in recent times, maybe it was China. It was a failed mission. Or maybe it was the Soviets. It was a failed mission by the Soviets, and that's what you're seeing there. You're literally seeing a probe that they sent there that failed its mission. It's a very good possibility.
Planet Earth, many civilizations have erected rectangular slabs of stone to pay tribute to the paganistic gods and rituals. There is Stonehenge in England, the Karnak stones in France. The list is endless. We're still trying to figure out how ancient humans built these towering structures, let alone how one got on Mars. In 2012, an astronomer caught sight of a monolithic standing stone on the Martian surface. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter confirmed the structure and can be seen casting a long shadow present in images from 2 completely different angles. It's estimated to be over 5 meters in diameter, with its straight, rectangular sides screaming out, "I was made, not formed," from the otherwise curvy and natural landscape.
So, here's my final thought on all that. There are monoliths on the moon. There are actual NASA photographs that show there are monoliths. There are large structures on the moon. They exist. They're real. So to see a monolith on Mars is not shocking to me, seeing what I have seen on the surface of the moon and in some of those photographs. But you know, like I said, a lot of these pictures here, very intriguing, very interesting, and this is what this is. It's interesting questions. That's what we do here. Interesting questions. So I'll leave it at this. I was very intrigued by what I seen. I hope you were too. If you were, please leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, share the video, and I'm gonna leave it up to the my peace symbol here and give you one myself. Peace.